All right, welcome back from lunch. I got to talk to some of you. It seems like you all enjoyed a good event. The stars are pretty cool. So I hope you continue to think about what questions you have and what kind of partnership you have and make connections later on today. Because after our series of talks, we're going to have a couple of talks happening now, followed by a panel, followed by more time for networking with the startups. So do bring your questions to the startups. And now I have Thomas Darling, am I pronouncing that right? Okay. From Airbus Venture to talk about the interaction between startups, corporates, and how can we do that better. What's cool about Thomas is he says teams made a really cool demo. He sort of didn't like that, and he asked a really cool slide deck. He says that sort of isn't what I'm going for. So like you, I'm looking forward to hear what he has to say that doesn't require any slide deck to talk about.
That's the first good news. There will be no slide. This is the after lunch slot, so some people needed that. And without slide, it's much easier. There's no interruption, there's just the sound of my voice. I'll keep it slow and steady. It's gonna be fine. Just one disclaimer, what I'm going to say and share with you today, so don't look at the screen, look at me. It's actually my personal opinion. It's not Airbus as a company, it's not Airbus Ventures as a firm. So just take it for me. So if you want to tweet something and say, "Ooh, that's what he said," well, that's Thomas, right? And I want to share with you a couple of stories, and I think I want to focus on industrial AI, right? And well, 15 years ago, I landed actually on the factory floor as an aerospace engineer. That was my first assignment, and when you really want to be credible, you need to understand the product. It's going from the theory to the real world. Usually you spend 1 to 3 years maximum, and then you're free. You can actually do a serious job. Right? I spent 10 years and decided to really spend a lot of time with factory people and the product too. I'm a slow learner, but also I needed to actually get a real sense of what it means to build an aircraft. And at that time, so if we go back 15 years ago, Airbus as a company, the commercial division, was actually building, so the main product was actually the A320, right, the single-aisle family, the aircraft that most of you have already used and keep using. It's not branded. And the point is, we're building 30 aircraft per month, right, which was basically, you have to think about one calendar day, a customer, an airline, would show up and take delivery of a completed aircraft, which is bill of material, millions of components, and test and very long lead time to get to this point. So it's not an impressive rate, right? But for our industry, it's a lot. To get everything converged and every single day get an aircraft in the air, that was a pretty big deal. And 15 years after, right, with all the promise of AI and automation and the billions we've poured into the factory and all the smart robots and the connection and everything we've deployed, we've just doubled the rate. Just doubled the rate. And believe me, we've been trying to do much more than doubling the rate, but we can't, right? So it's 2x over 15 years, so it's 60 aircraft roughly a month. Well, this is not very different from the other big OEM. So what I'm trying to say here, and being quite controversial about that, is, well, the miracle of industrial AI did not happen, or has not happened yet, right? And I know that if you're in the Valley, usually here, you're an optimist, right? You have to say the opposite. You have to say everything's fine. Here are all the startups, the technology, the venture capitalists, everything being poured. It's gonna change. Well, maybe, but I'm just being very humble here and saying from the factory floor, if you walk, this is not the 10% adoption that we saw in one of the pitches for one of the companies that presented earlier. It's probably lower than 1% in our industry, right? So what went wrong? That was very much the question I had while driving here. And yes, yesterday watching the deck that my team has prepared, it was a great deck. I mean, videos and smart factories and Skywise and the whole thing. And you would have come out of that speech saying, wow, it's happening. And yes, it is happening. I don't want to say anything else. It is happening. But I want to be very honest that today, right now, right there, you would be walking in factories across the world, not just Europe, not just US, but China, India, Russia, every big nation trying to build aircraft. or satellite or rockets. It's impressive, yet industrial automation is not there. Industrial AI is not there, right? Not to the expectation we had. So my point here, and kind of the very simple tagline of my speech here is just like, very simple, we just don't know how to do it. Let's be honest, we just don't know. As factory people, as manufacturing people, as industry people, we don't know, right? And if you look at what happened, well, basically first, the technology infrastructure is not in place. It's not. The connectivity aspect is not there. If you think about running algorithms on the edge that need some compute power, and the amount of compute power required, which by the way requires some cloud compute, which requires more connectivity, well, this is not there. Most of the factory we have across this industry is not equipped. So that's the first element. It's kind of patchwork of technology that is not yet ready to welcome industrial AI. The second aspect is the use cases, right? To make it happen, we have to find those use cases that talk for themselves. You should feel the billions of dollars of savings to convince everyone to actually go forward. And of course, I'm not going to challenge the predictive maintenance, the issues of trying to manage faulty analysis and safety critical factor with more AI. For sure, it's happening. But this kind of massive, evident billion-dollar story is not something, at least I was able to touch yet. So that's really an issue of proving the reality and the promise, and not just postponing that for 10 years from now, 15 years from now, right? Probably the last element of that kind of very dark vision, I promise I'm an optimist, so I will rebound at some point. If you're not falling completely asleep, you should end. At the end, it's getting better. But the point is people, the workforce, right? And I was on the other side. I'm not a serial keynote speaker, and I'm not an AI expert, right? So you got to forgive me on those two fronts. But and don't take me wrong, I have huge respect for the community. I mean, the industrial AI is a thing, right? It has a Wikipedia page, so right. It has a Facebook fan club. So by all standards of today's society, it does exist. Well, having said that, no. To be honest, the universities started working on it. The money deployed ourselves as a venture firm. We've done a lot of investment in the field. We believe in it, and we think it's going to happen. But back to kind of being realistic, and to the workforce that is today on the factory floor. Well, this workforce is not equipped, not trained, right? They don't have the vocabulary. Right? If you, again, back to the Wikipedia, I don't know if one of you have checked the definition of industrial AI, but try to read that loud to someone on the factory floor. And they're not stupid. We're not stupid on the factory floor. It's just like we don't understand what you're talking about. The word that is being used individually makes sense. It's just like the sentence doesn't make sense. And that's okay, because you need to get trained. You need to understand. It's a different culture. And guess what? You've been building this aircraft for half a century. Right? So it's not like you've been waiting for someone to help you. You've been doing the job. Someone is telling you it could be better, that a robot can do the task that you were doing for a long time and be more precise, more accurate, more resilient, for sure. For sure. But it's probably missing one element, right? Industrial AI is often tied to narrow AI, right? You try to remove the question of general AI and say, well, this is a big deal. It's going to take 20 years. This is like this human capability. So no. We are talking just about this narrow AI. And look at this robot, what it can do and achieve. That's amazing. And it's true. But that's not how a factory works. If you are in the factory, of course there's a single task that you can isolate. But there's also this magnificent collective brain that you don't measure. There's no sensor for that. What do I mean by that? I mean that the operator, the blue collar, the worker that is operating on a factory, well, sometimes has an unpredictable event to manage, an issue, a trouble. And you try to fix it, but it's also, you can call a friend. There's a quality guy coming. Then there's a group of people. There's things happening in the background. And all of that is not written in any routine, any procedures, any manuals, but it does happen every single second. And that collective brain that you don't see on a factory, but is responsible, it's human being getting connected in a completely random pattern that is very difficult to reproduce. That is basically what general AI is chasing. What if we would have robots that actually can get a chit chat with someone at a coffee machine and get tips about what the machine should do? Well, this is not yet there. But I think what I want to make as a case here is if we really want to work seriously about the implementation of AI in the industry, we got to stop separating narrow AI and general AI. Because those are actually the two sides of the same coin. This is the same story. We got to work on both at the same time. It's funny to see Elon Musk disrupting the industry and building rocket the whole way, at the same time investing massively in the big AI field. Because he has understood that those are the two sides of the same system, right? So the moment we will be able to actually understand that the robot isolated, the task isolated, would actually not solve the challenge, I think we'll make a big step towards the adoption, right? So again, I'm not trying to convince anyone about that. It's a very personal experience I wanted to share, where I feel the myth or the miracle that we've been telling needs to kind of be rebalanced by a bit of a reality check. And this reality check is actually not to be negative, it's just to be extremely lucid about where we should put our money, right? In the corporate world, you're very credible if you come up with a slide, pack of 60 slides. It shows the depth of your knowledge, right? In Silicon Valley, it's if you come with a pile of cash, and you know that you're going to deploy money on the field. That's how you get respected. So I do have a pile of cash right here. But Airbus Ventures has a lot of money to deploy, and already deployed a lot. We've deployed $100 million over the last 3 years-ish on very early stage company. So I'll let you do the math. You know, early stage take 1, 2, 3 million max. So it's a lot of companies, it's a lot of deployment in those fields, because we believe that by pushing all of those elements, and not just a single robot, not just single application, but just the ecosystem, or the system of systems, we have a chance to reproduce a new generation of factories that will be mind-blowing, and yes, AI would have a place. And trying to leave you with a final thought about what we could do. That's where I'm getting very optimistic about the future. I can't resist to make the analogy with autonomous driving and autonomous flying, right? Autonomous driving is an area where money and attention and OEM and media and people and us as consumers are putting all our effort these days. We want to make that happen, right? But it's keep pushing. The roadmap is keep getting more and more complicated. We said 3 years to level 5. Now we say 5 years. Now people are saying maybe 10 years to level 5, right? So it's keep pushing because it's difficult, not because it's not going to happen. Because we're doing the reality check and we realize that it's not that simple. On the ground, autonomous driving is highly complicated. Sensor cannot make all the judgment a human can do, right? And yes, we can improve, yes, but still, the collective brain that is on the ground is actually extremely powerful. The human has a role to play. In the air, autonomous flying does exist already for 8 years. Pilots spend 8 minutes on the flight of an hour to actually control the aircraft, right? Autonomous flying is ready and it's getting and moving extremely fast. Over 2 years, we've seen 38 different VTOL projects taking off, literally. So not just a concept, a product, vertical takeoff and landing, boom, to your destination with a human inside, or what would be a human tomorrow, and fully autonomous, end-to-end. So this is happening much faster than the autonomous driving. And if I take this analogy to industrial AI, I want to make the case right here, right there, that we can keep working on factory on the ground, and we'll do. But actually factory in space, and space AI will happen before you even know it. And why? Get back to the 3 elements I mentioned earlier. What about the technology infrastructure right up there? Well, in low Earth orbit, it's actually highly technological already, and for years. The system, the comm, the connectivity, the ability of tracking, it's high tech, it's deep tech. It has always been and will always be. So the infrastructure is there, and it's keep increasing. Talk about the constellation of satellites. Science fiction 5 years ago, people heard about it 3 years ago. OneWeb deployed the first satellite. So there's a change, there's a revolution, and you can touch it. The birds are up there, and they're talking to Earth. We talk about the use cases. Well, use cases, connectivity for us is coming now from orbits, from satellites. Use cases of manufacturing in space, gravity, microgravity, is happening. Right? The use cases in billions of dollars are right in front of us. Space debris management in order to ensure stability amongst nations, and the risk of major conflict will be managed from the sky, not from the ground. Those are cases that are important in billions, but also in sovereignty and nation debate and challenges. Those are right now, right there. And finally, the workforce. Well, it's a pretty skilled workforce. Space people are very, very knowledgeable, equipped from the beginning, understood the challenges of technology, but it's not enough. And we're going to have to put the worker in space, right? The beauty is we're never going to put the entire worker, but just his or her brain. So we're in the process of putting brains in space at a speed we've never seen before. The Avatar revolution has given us a chance to address what I said earlier, which was a general AI brain that was missing on the ground, and translate that into logics of supervised controlled robots that actually can operate in very difficult environments. And believe me, low Earth orbit is not a place where you want to spend your vacation, right? It's beautiful, but you can't survive. You can't survive without machine. So the notion of survival makes it necessary for human to completely collaborate to a point that human has to merge with machine. And astronauts, and I have a lot of friends astronauts, they can't survive without systems around them. They cannot go to space and just walk. They need a system around them, that's obvious, right? For people staying on the ground and pushing their brain to space soon, and I say soon, then the robots would actually be the only means of transportation. And the decoupling of brain and body is just something that technologically is not that complicated, right? So just to wrap it up, and I hope I didn't kill anyone by this speech going to space, and I see the room is still there, good. I still believe very much about this revolution, and yes, I want to make the case that it's going to be easier, faster, cheaper, and more impressive in space than it will be on Earth. Thank you.
I can start with a question and you guys can think some more. You talk about all the factory and all the brain that's already in there with the human brain, and how can we better test that with machines in a way that works more effectively, right? Part of it seems to echo some of the thoughts brought up earlier, how do we involve the human in the loop to try to encourage more AI that works with people in the factory floor. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I mean, sure, I think there's been debates about human in the loop. I feel like human in the loop is almost the consolation prize, so if you're going to lose your job, you're going to stay there. This is not the challenge. The challenge is really, there is, as I said, there's this hidden element of collaboration that we don't measure yet, that a sensor cannot really detect. But if you really pause and spend the time in a factory and just observe how people do a task, this is not this single isolated system. No, human are human and will always be, right? And it's good because the world and the practical world is different from the simulation world. So I don't like the expression human in the loop. I actually hate it because I think human is central to the equation and always been and will always be. It's true that there is tasks and things that humans want to get disconnected from, but even those would be and needs to be under control. The notion of supervised control of machine is something I like a lot because then you know who's the master is the slave. And the master has to be the human. And I know there are fears and issues about what if machines overtake and it's only we're not necessary. Can we stay in the loop, please? Well, it's just up to us, right? So let's not just fear that the future that we don't want going to happen. We're building it, right? So it's our responsibility from the industry sector, from the investment sector. I mean, as an investor, we got to choose and draw a line of ethics on what we want to see emerging and what we don't want to see emerging, right? It's not just a marketing stance on the door of the investment firm. It has to be something you believe in, and you have and we have today the means to channel all this energy to something where human robots machine interface connection have a sense for everyone, right? So none of that answer, but
yes. It's interesting. It reminded me of so we had another workshop, startup workshop, IoT workshop about a month ago, And there, we had someone, Mohammed Asif from Hitachi, who also talked about his love the factory floor, all the dedicated people working on the floor, and how can we use technology to enhance that. So we had a discussion about that, and sort of come like, well, maybe we need to bring these MIT smarts to the factory floor so they observe what's going on, so that they can better think about how does technology enhance the work that's already happening.
But it takes 10 years, just as a disclaimer. You have to spend 10 years. It's a minimum.
Maybe have some MIT smarts thinking about how to speed up that timeline. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.